Hey, it's Katie, and welcome back to my BookTube channel. For today's video, I will be doing a book review of Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. All I really knew about this book before going into it was that there is a sapphic romance, there is magic, and there's a plague that's happening in this world. And those are really the only little blurbs that I knew about it. I even didn't know if it was a standalone or part of a series. I had no idea. I just knew it was Adrienne Tooley's debut novel, and this came in, I think, an Owl Crate box. Yes, this came in an Owl Crate box, so I have like a really pretty edition, and I knew nothing about it before then. And I was definitely pleasantly surprised. Also, it turns out this is a standalone. I looked it up when I was done, and also just by reading it, I figured out it was a standalone because at the very end of the book, everything gets kind of wrapped up really nicely, and it still leaves you to wonder about like the future of what's happening, but for the most part, like everything you're wondering gets wrapped up at the end, which is great for a standalone. One of our main characters, Tamsin, is one of the most powerful witches of her generation, but she ends up committing the most horrific magical sin. I'm not sure if horrific's the right word, but she ends up committing this magical sin, so she is exiled from her coven and she's cursed with the inability to love. So basically the only way that Tamsin can feel love is by stealing love from others, at least temporarily. On the other hand, we have Ren, who is a source, which is this rare kind of person who is made of magic, although she can't use that magic for herself. And in this world, sources are required to train with the coven as soon as they figure out that they have these abilities, but Ren has been living in secret because she is trying to take care of her ailing father. A magical plague ravages the queendom, and Ren's father falls victim to it, so in order to save him, she strikes this bargain. Basically, if Tamsin helps track down the dark witch responsible for the plague, Ren will give Tamsin the love she has for her father. The magic in this book and the characters are just as interesting as they sound from the synopsis, and it's interesting because my expectations for this book were that it would be very plot driven because it's about them trying to figure out who started this plague and figure out how to stop it, but it's actually a very character driven story, which was very interesting to me. Obviously, they are still trying to figure out who created the plague and trying to stop it, but most of this book is spent figuring out who these characters are. It's about them trying to figure out their powers and who they are as people and the relationships they have with other people. So it's very character driven, and I honestly did really enjoy it. It was just different from what I was expecting, so I just feel like you guys should know that going into it. Since we do have two female protagonists, this is told from dual perspectives, and the chapters alternate between perspectives, and sometimes that doesn't really work for me in books if the chapters are really short, or if the characters are the same gender. Sometimes it gets confusing and I'm not sure whose perspective I'm reading, but that didn't really happen in this book. I feel like the chapters were a good length because you had enough time to get to know the character and you knew whose perspective you were reading. I feel like they were very different characters, which I really enjoyed. So I didn't have to keep checking to see whose perspective I was reading. And like I said, the chapters were the perfect length for me because you didn't get bored with the perspective, but it also was a long enough time in each person's perspective that you didn't get super confused. And like I said, this is a standalone, which standalones are kind of interesting to me because obviously you only have like a couple hundred pages to build this world and, flesh out these characters and everything, and then wrap it all up with like this pretty bow by the end. So it's a lot to try to accomplish within a couple hundred pages. And I think overall, Adrienne Tooley did a great job with her debut standalone, and I especially love the characters. I think the characters are really well written, but I do think the world building could have been a little more fleshed out. I really loved the world, and especially the elements of the plague we got to see. I think those were really cool and really well done. I just wish we got a little bit more of that because I was so interested. I just feel like I still had a lot of questions that I wish I could have answers to, and I also feel like I would have loved to see a little bit more of the magic. I think there was just enough. Like, it's nothing against Adrienne Tooley. I think she did a great job, and it's still a really good novel. always want more. So maybe that's a sign that it was really great writing, but I definitely did have some other questions and things that I wanted more of. I did really enjoy the pacing of this novel though. Sometimes it takes me a really long time to get into a book because there's a ton of world building or it just starts off really slow. Sometimes it takes me anywhere from 100 to 200 pages to get into a novel, but that wasn't really the case with this. I feel like it was done really well, that it's paced slow enough at the beginning that you're not confused. You're kind of not eased into the world, but you get to take your time getting to know the characters and the world you're in, but it's still like quick enough paced that I was not bored and I always wanted to keep reading more. So I think that was really well done. And I also really did enjoy Adrienne Tooley's writing. I feel like it was so beautifully written and it just felt very magical, and I can't even find the right words. It was like captivating, alluring. Like, I just really enjoyed her writing style and her word choices. It was just really fun, and it definitely painted a beautiful picture of the world in my head. I think other than the magic and all of that we got in here, I think the characters are probably my favorite element because Tamsin and Ren were both so different from each other. So we got to see two completely different perspectives on the same journey that they took, but they also complemented each other so well. So on one hand, we have Ren, who is so sweet and so selfless, and she basically gave up her dreams and everything that she wanted in life just to take care of her father, who was sick and who needed her. And she has just always been trying to help those in need, even like the animals around her and everything. Like, she just seems like the sweetest person. And it's also interesting because she really doubts her abilities, and obviously because she was never trained as a sorceress, she doesn't really know what else she can do. So she's not very sure of herself, and I really loved seeing her grow throughout the novel, but she was definitely very sweet and pure and adorable. And then on the other hand, we have Tamsin, and obviously, because she doesn't have the ability to love, she seems very cruel and brutal and cold, and people definitely don't trust her or get along with her, but she also just seems so lonely, and all she wants is to feel a little bit of love. She still wants that connection with people, but she also, because she doesn't have the ability to love, definitely is kind of meaner to people than most others would be. And I think Tamsin was probably my favorite character in this book. At first I would have said that it was Ren because of how sweet she was. I feel like it was something I really gravitated toward, but watching Tamsin grow throughout this book, she was just such a dynamic character, and watching her character arc throughout the novel was just really amazing. And I just loved all of the elements of her that we got to know, and she was probably just the most complex character I've read about in a while. So I really enjoyed her as a character, and I'm kind of sad that I don't get to read any more of her adventures. Now we can talk about the other main element of this book that I had super high expectations for, and that was the romance. I was so excited to see a magical book with a sapphic romance, especially because it is Pride Month, so that's like the perfect time to read a female-female romance, and it was definitely enjoyable, but it didn't really meet my expectations, which could have just been because I had such high expectations, but Enemies to Lovers is my favorite, and I feel like that's kind of how this romance was pitched to me, was that it was like a female-female enemies to lovers, and I don't really think that's what we got. Ren and Tamsin were definitely enemies at first, but I feel like they quickly got past that. It's weird because there wasn't like a pivotal moment where it transitioned from enemies to lovers or anything like that, but it was like at the beginning they didn't really get along, and then as the book went on they kind of distracted us with other things, but they definitely were not enemies for a good chunk of this book, and that's kind of sad because I really love enemies to lovers, especially the ones where they really don't get along for a while and it takes a good chunk of the book for them to even start to not hate each other. So I was really hoping it was more like that, and it wasn't, but I still really did enjoy the romance and I really was rooting for it. It just didn't really connect to the part of me that loves enemies to lovers. And also, it's a very subtle romance. Not a lot happens. It's definitely like PG. it'd be suitable for younger YA readers. And that doesn't mean that it's not a good romance for anybody. It's just, like I said, not a lot happens. So I felt like I was missing a lot of the parts of the romance that I usually love. But I honestly think that's more of a personal preference than anything it would say about Adrienne Tooley. I think the romance is definitely good for some people, but like I said, it is very subtle. So if you're somebody that doesn't really enjoy romance in books or only likes it to be subtle or, just kind of barely there, I think this book would be great for you because it's definitely not a large chunk of this book at all. So I think you would definitely enjoy that element. But even if you're someone like me who does really love romance, there's definitely little touches of it throughout the book to help get you through, but it's not a big part of this if you were hoping that it was. One last thing I want to mention is that there was a pretty big plot twist toward like the middle of this book, and I did not see it coming. I don't know if anybody else did, but it really caught me off guard. Like, I took a break from reading for a little bit because it surprised me, but I really, really loved it. And I think those are the best plot twists, the ones you cannot see coming, because usually I can predict some plot twists, but that one definitely caught me off guard. So if you guys love plot twists, hopefully that one surprises you as well. And I really did enjoy this book overall. I feel like I read it pretty quickly and I took my time reading it at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, I read it quickly because I didn't want to put it down, but I also tried to read it a little bit slower than I usually would because I was really enjoying the world, and Adrienne Tooley's writing was absolutely beautiful, and I would definitely recommend it. I do plan on reading more from Adrienne Tooley. I think there's another book she's working on right now. I am not sure what it's called. It doesn't even have like a cover yet or anything, so it's not coming out anytime soon. And this one just came out a few months ago, so it'll probably be a while, but I really did enjoy her writing, so I plan on reading more from her. And I gave this book a 3.5-star rating initially, but I'm thinking of bumping it up to a 4-star because, like I said, I really enjoyed it. There were just a couple things that I wish were done a little bit different, so I can't give it 5 stars, and I'm not sure if I would reread it. So those are kind of my criteria for why I can't give it 5 stars, but I loved the world building, I loved the magic, I loved the characters, so this is one I definitely think I will recommend to a lot of people, and of course I recommend it to you guys. So yeah, I mean, those are really all my thoughts. I just finished this earlier today, so they're not fully fleshed out right now, but I really did enjoy this. I feel like I've said that like 100 times. If you want to see more of my thoughts, I did leave a Goodreads review as well, which will be linked below if you would like to check that out. But hopefully I helped you guys decide whether or not you'd like to read this. I totally think you should, and again, I'm obsessed with this edition. The sprayed edges, the cover itself on any edition is gorgeous, and I really loved seeing Tamsin and Ren on the cover because as I was reading, sometimes I would take a break and just look at them, and it kind of helped me get a better feel for them as characters. So I really enjoyed that as well. But thank you guys for watching my review of Sweet and Bitter Magic. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts. If you did like this video, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. And if you do subscribe, please click the notification bell so you know when I upload next. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in my next video.